Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Chef's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to be making some Danish pastries. And when I say today, it's actually going to take me over 2 days. This is quite a long-winded process. The first thing to do is obviously to make the pastry, and then you have to put it all together. But to make the pastry, which is a puff pastry with all the layers that you need, takes quite a long time. Now I'm going to use a recipe from Paul Hollywood to make my pastry, and he uses strong white bread flour. Many recipes call for all-purpose or plain flour, and that will work fine. The strong white bread flour actually just gives you slightly more structure and a softer texture, basically, from what I understand. So for the ingredients, I have 500 grams of strong white flour. I have 2 medium eggs, that would be large in the USA. I have 125 millilitres of tepid milk, that's whole milk, 80 grams of caster sugar, 10 grams of salt, 10 grams of instant yeast, and 90 millilitres of cool water. And what I'm going to do is to put the flour into our stand mixer that has the dough hook attached to it, and then on one side I'm going to put the instant yeast, and on the other side I'm going to put the salt and the sugar. You don't want the salt touching the instant yeast because it tends to kill the yeast. Then I'm just going to pour in the milk, the eggs, and the cooled water. And I'm going to mix that on slow for 2 minutes. And then I'm going to mix it for a further 6 minutes on a medium speed. Okay, so the next thing to do is to just lightly flour the work surface, just a little bit. And then take your dough, and it's still a bit sticky. And form it into a ball. Like that, and then Paul Hollywood says to put it into a bag, a plastic bag, but I don't have a plastic bag that's large enough, so I'm going to put it into my bowl, and I've lightly covered the whole thing with flour, as you can see. And I'm going to cover that with plastic wrap. and I'm going to put that into the fridge for an hour, and then when I come back I'm going to roll that out and I'm going to put in some butter. So I will need 250 grams of cold butter, which we have to shape into a rectangle 33 centimeters by 19 centimeters to fit into our pastry, our dough, which will be rolled out to 50 centimeters by 20 centimeters. So I'll be back with you in an hour to do the next stage. Okay, so I'm back with you now, and our dough has chilled for an hour in the fridge, and I've put it on a lightly floured work surface. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll it out to 50 centimeters by 20 centimeters. So that's about 2 foot by 8 inches. And then I have 250 grams of butter, which I have shaped. It's cold, but I have shaped it into 33 centimeters by 19 centimeters, and I've put a cut right down the middle, which I'll show you about later. So the first thing to do is to roll our dough out. And I've actually just folded a tea towel to about the size I need, just as a guide. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put our butter onto the paper, onto the dough, and peel back the paper. And as you see, the butter goes soft quite quickly, so the next stage will be to chill it again. Right, so we take the top third of the dough and we fold it over onto the butter like that, and we press down the sides there to seal it in, and then we lift the second piece of the butter over like that and pull the dough up to enfold it and press it down like that. And that's all we have to do for the time being. So I'm going to wrap that loosely in cling film, and I'm going to put it back in the fridge for an hour. That will allow the butter to firm up. Then I'm going to take it out and roll it to the same size again, and I'll show you that, and we're going to actually do that 3 more times, but I will show you one more time and explain the rest of the process. So I'll be back with you in an hour to do that next step. Okay, so our dough has now chilled again for another hour, and I've got it back out of the fridge, and we have to roll it out again. So we want the short side, that's the side with where we've pressed down the seams for the butter, facing us, and we're going to roll it out to the same distance again, which is 50 centimeters by 20 centimeters. So then we fold down the top 1/3, and we fold up the bottom 1/3, like that. And then we're going to wrap it again, and we're going to chill it for another hour. So this is what we call the first turn, and we do this rolling out twice more with chilling it for an hour in between time. So in the fridge for an hour, bring it out, roll it out, in the fridge for an hour, bring it out, roll it out again. Then we're going to put it in the fridge for at least 8 hours, or overnight is probably preferable. So that's what I'm going to do. So I will be back with you tomorrow when this has been chilled overnight, and we'll get on to rolling it out and shaping our pastries. So I'm back with you now, and I have taken our pastry out of the fridge and I've cut it in half, and I'll show you here. You can see all the layers, and I'm going to put that half to one side, and I'm going to roll this half out into a square of about 36 centimetres by 36 centimetres if I can. So I've rolled that out about right, and what I'm going to do now is to cut it into 9 squares. Which will be about 9 centimetres each. If they're a bit inaccurate, it doesn't matter that much. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is just separate them, and I'm going to roll this one out back into its square if I can. And then we have to make some shapes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a decent one here, and the first thing I'm going to do is to make this into a pinwheel. Now to do that, I'm going to cut in from each corner like that. And then I'm going to take one corner and press it into the middle, maybe with a little bit of egg wash in the middle just to help it stick. So that's one corner there. So then you then take the next corner there, the next corner there, and the next corner there, and that's your pinwheel. So then you have to take that and transfer it onto a baking sheet and leave it to rise. So you leave that to rise until it's doubled in size, which will take about 2 hours. Now the other shape I'm going to do is one where I take one corner and pull it over to the other corner to make a triangle like that. Then having made a triangle, I'm going to cut in from each side like that, and then open it up again. And then I'm going to just egg wash I take this one and place it on that piece of pastry, and take this one and place it on that piece of pastry, and that leaves me with a nice shape that I can fill in there. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to put that on the baking sheet. And I'm going to continue to do that for all of them. So we have to roll out the other half of our pastry, which I have here. Into about the same size, but in actual fact I think if I rolled it out to slightly 35 by 25 may be okay for the cinnamon swirls, but we'll see how we go. And I think that's large enough for my purposes. So what I have here is just some raisins with some butter, some caster sugar and some mixed spice, and I'm going to spread that over the pastry. And then I'm going to egg wash one edge like that, and I'm going to roll it up. Like that. And then I'm just going to cut it into pieces. And I'm going to place those onto a baking tray as well, like that, and press them down. And then I'm going to brush those with egg wash as well. So I'm going to leave everything to rest for a couple of hours until they've risen. Then I'm going to put these in the oven to bake while I fill the other ones. So I'll be back with you in a couple of hours to go on to the next step. Okay, well I'm back with you now, and I have put our raisin swirls in the oven. I've preheated the oven to 200 Celsius, 180 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit, and I'm going to bake those for about 20 minutes until they've gone a nice golden brown. If they're not done after 20 minutes, I'll leave them in for a further few minutes, but I'll let you know that at the end. So while they're baking, I'll just tell you that what I did was I took 50 grams of raisins, 50 grams of light muscovado sugar, 25 grams of softened butter, and mixed those together with a teaspoon of mixed spice, and that was my filling for those swirls. Now for these pinwheels I've ground 85 grams of pecan into sort of fine grounds, and I've added 25 grams of sugar and 50 grams of softened butter into that, and I'm actually just going to, and a tablespoon of maple syrup, sorry. I'm just going to take a little bit of each of that and put it into the centre of each of our pinwheels. I think I've made more mixture than I actually need, but that's fine. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to then put just a little bit more of the egg wash on to the pastry, and the reason for that is that I want to sprinkle some muscovado sugar and some chopped pecans onto the pastry, just to give it that little bit extra, and the egg wash will help that adhere. And for the other ones, I've got some apricots. I'm actually tinned apricots. I'm just going to use half of them, and I have some passion fruit curd here, which I'm just going to push into the hole in the middle. Now you can fill these with anything you want, of course. And that passion fruit curd is lovely. Then I'm going to take just half an apricot probably and put it on the top. Like that. And I need a little bit more for this one. And then they're ready to go into the oven once the swirls have come out. And then once they've baked for 20 minutes as well, what you can do, if you want to, is you can take 50 grams of icing sugar and a little drop of water and mix it together until you get a dripping consistency. Then you can drip a nice glaze over the over the raisin swirls. And if you want to, you can preheat, or you can heat up some apricot jam, and you can then brush that over the hot pastries when they come out of the oven to give them a glaze. So I'll be back with you when these are all out of the oven, and I'll show you the results. Okay, well, I'm back with you now, and I've taken all the pastries out of the oven. Now, the cinnamon swirls turned out very well, and these ones turned out well too. This pecan and maple pinwheel, the filling spread, and I was worried that it might spread because I didn't have a very deep pit in the middle. But it's still okay. It's just that it doesn't look particularly pretty. So I'm going to just try one. It's nice and crunchy on the outside and soft in the middle, nice and sweet. That's very good indeed. The others are still cooling down just a little bit, so I'm not going to try those yet, but I'm sure they'll be fine. So that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed this recipe, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below the video and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click to get to the recipe for these Danish pastries. I'll also put a link below the video that you can click to get to the recipe, and I'll be back with you in a few days with another recipe. So until then, happy baking.